So the title of tonight's video is Why Banks Love the Credit Challenged. And that's not completely accurate, but let me begin with a story. I have an elderly friend, a really sweet old lady, the sweetest old lady you'd ever want to meet. And she had to send a bank wire. And if you're not familiar with bank wires, it's the only way to send money the same day from one bank to another. It's a premium service, and I would say the fee for this is typically between $25 and $35 for most banks. But let's say you had to get money somewhere quickly, or if it was a significant amount, you could do that from your bank. You wouldn't necessarily have to use one of those services offered at Walmart or something like that. You could go to your bank and send an actual wire. In any case, this poor old lady, she just didn't have the right information. So she submitted incorrect information to her bank to send this wire. And when she did that, they attempted to send the wire, and of course it didn't work. And whenever a wire doesn't work, the money simply is returned to its origin. So the money comes right back to her bank. So what does the bank do? It submits it again. And it tells her, the bank calls her and says, hey, look, we tried to send your wire. It must be wrong. The instructions are wrong. And, we submitted it twice, so you owe us two fees. So she told me this story. And of course, a lot of older folks, they're not very confrontational. And, and as you get older, maybe people get a little less fired up, a little less hostile. So when she told me this, I gave her a pep talk and told her she better march down to that bank and tell them she's been a customer of theirs for 20 years and she's never had a fee and they better credit these two or she's leaving. Well, she did that and she did get, I want to say most, I think the person helping her hung on to at least a portion of one fee, which is embarrassing. In fact, that whole business is embarrassing. If I worked in a business where the whole premise of me doing, business was fees, I would just have to leave that business entirely. But that brings up a good point. Banks have different types of customers. The majority of the money made at a bank, and I know this because I had a friend who worked in banking, and he told me one time that most of their money is made from customers that have less than $5,000 in their account. Let me say that again. I want to say it was lower, but just to be safe, banks make most of their money from customers that have less than $5,000 in the bank. And, a lot of people have less than that. Maybe you have 2,000, maybe you're living from week to week. You just have $100, right? Well, the only way, obviously the only way they're going to make money is to charge you fees. So it's when you mess up, it's only your misfortune that is going to enable the bank to profit from you. And what I mean by that is if you're doing well and you have money and you deposit a significant amount of money into the bank, they're able to use that to leverage, as a reserve. Let's say if you won the lottery, for instance, and you had $1 million, well, if you put the $1 million in the bank, you obviously can't spend it all at one time. So the bank gets to use that and leverages that as part of their reserve to lend out to other people so they can leverage your money while supposedly keeping it safe. But that's not the case for the credit challenge. So if you're listening to this and you are credit challenged, you're of no benefit to them. You don't have enough money to contribute to the reserve. So how do you think they're going to make the relationship with you a profitable one for the bank? Well, the only way to do that is to screw you. So, and I laugh, but it's absolutely true. So they give you things like overdraft protection, which is not protection, right? If you go over, they'll cover the bill for you, but then they'll charge you $30. Now, when I was younger, if you went over, they would charge you and you weren't aware that you were over your balance. They would charge you $30 every time. You could be over your balance, go and buy a pack of gum, and they would try to charge you $30 and they would hang on relentlessly to that fee and not want to give it to you. So my point is, if you're credit challenged or you're working your way back and you don't have, more than a few $1,000s in the bank is not your friend. There's likely no service they could possibly offer you that would be of benefit to you. The very best thing you can do is manage your bills yourself. Don't have overdraft protection. Just don't go over. And if you do, guess what? They don't get paid and you don't get a fee. Not having overdraft protection is probably the smartest thing you can do if you're trying to rebuild your credit. So keep that in mind. And that's exactly why banks love the credit challenged. Before I sign off, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe. Like if you like the video, and subscribe if you like to talk about how you can save more and not get taken advantage of, even if you are rebuilding your credit. So I do appreciate your time and attention. And tell me your story. Tell me your story about fighting a bank over fees and how ridiculous it got. I would love to hear that in the comments. So thanks. Have a good night. And for goodness sake, stay alert and don't get screwed.